Hello and welcome to Planet 40k, I'm Eugenio and today we're going to make an urban battlefield base. To begin with, I clipped and cleaned up the model, removing the mould lines using very fine 1200 grit sandpaper. This is the kind they use to sand cars and you can get it from most DIY stores. For those of you in the UK, I picked this up from either Screwfix or Toolstation for a few pounds. Next, we want to fix the model to the base while we add the basing material. Normally I would apply a tiny bit of super glue to hold the figure down while I add the basing material. However, as I'm using a GW push fit model from the Indomitus box set, it comes with a hole that already helps to hold the figure in place. If you're not using a push fit model, just use a tiny bit of super glue on one foot. Then you can carefully snap the model off the base to make it easier to paint or spray. Just make sure you don't use too much glue, otherwise you'll have trouble getting it off later. I cut up some bits of sprue to simulate bricks and stuck them down with super glue. I also put a skull on to add some contrast to the base. I got these skulls in a pack of 100 from a company called Green Stuff World for around £8 in the UK, which is around $11 US. You can try the skulls and bricks in a few different positions before sticking them down, or if you're not that bothered, then just go for it. I added some PVA glue to the base and dipped it in a mixture of sand and small stones. In the UK it's called sharp sand. You can buy a huge bag very cheaply from most DIY stores and you'll never run out. You can make your own mix with any sand and some small stones. I know some people recommend stones for aquariums, so maybe give that a try. There are also a few companies on eBay selling different sand mixes for basing, so you can have a look on there too. To make sure everything remains firmly in place, I watered down some PVA glue, roughly a 50-50 mix, and applied it all over the sand and stones. It's tempting to miss this stage out to save time, but if you do this, bits may come off when you're painting, so it's definitely worth taking the time to do. Next I primed the model and base. As I'm painting a Blood Angels Marine, I went for black and a red from the top. You can use any primer you like, but dark grey would be the best for this colour scheme, and will save you from base coating. As I don't have a dark grey primer, I base coated the base with Citadel Eshin Grey, but feel free to use any dark grey you've got. If you're doing a whole army with this scheme, I'd recommend buying a dark grey primer to spray the bases, as this will save you loads of time. Once the base coat was dry, I added 2 washes, first a coat of Nuln Oil and followed by a coat of Agrax Earthshade from Citadel. To speed up the drying, I held the base in front of my dehumidifier, which blows out warm air. Normally people use hairdryers for this, so if you've got one of those you can use that too to speed things up. After the 2 washes were completely dry, I gave the whole base a dry brush with Citadel Dawnstone. As long as it's a lighter shade of grey than the base coat, you can use any type you've got. Next I painted the skull in Ushabti Bone, and once dry, I applied a wash of Agrax Earthshade. I then went back and picked out the raised areas with another coat of Ushabti Bone, making sure to leave the recess areas alone. While the Ushabti Bone was still wet, I mixed in a bit of white and used this to do a sharper highlight just on the parts of the skull that stick out the most. I felt the bricks needed to stand out a bit more, so I went back and edge highlighted them with Dawnstone. I was tempted to do a lighter highlight, but realised that when I added the figure back to the base, the bricks should really be in shadow, so I didn't want them to stick out too much. It's worth bearing in mind where your shadow should be to avoid things looking too unnatural. I'm not an expert in this at all, but it's something I'm learning. To add a little bit more contrast to the base, I added some flock. I put patches of PVA glue on with an old brush and added the flock, shaking off the excess back into the bag. I picked this flock up really cheaply on eBay from a company called Warworld Scenics. There's loads of choice on eBay, so just find one you like and give it a go. Overall, I'm pretty happy with how this base turned out. I think to improve it in future, I'd like to try static grass that's a little more green and shorter in length, something that's a bit more like moss in between the bricks. Another idea for this base style would be to add a barbed wire effect to give more interest. If I was doing a whole army in this scheme, it would be good to have slight variations so each base doesn't look too similar. You don't have to put a skull on each base. I think it might be a bit overkill, but maybe try a few extra on a character you'd like to stand out a bit more. If you enjoyed the video and would like to see more painting tutorials from us, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more 40k content. If you'd like to support us further, we've got a Patreon campaign that you can check out in the description below. Thanks for watching and hope to see you in the next video.